So today we're talking about long-term darts improvement and how do you practice to get better in the long term. This is a video I'm really excited to make, and the reason I'm really excited to make this video is because I think it's going to be really good for beginner players who are just getting started in their journey, but I also think there's a lot for players who are a bit further down the line and are looking for ways to break through a plateau or looking for ways to optimize their practice routines. I think this is going to help, and I think we're going to talk about some things today that are going to benefit a wide range of people. I think it's fair to say that a lot of people, when they practice, either don't put enough thought into how they're practicing, or they've kind of fallen a bit too comfortable in some routines potentially. And that might lead to a plateau, or it might lead to a lack of improvement. And some of these things we're going to discuss now will help you. Now, let's just get one thing out of the way early and talk about it straight away, is practice drills and practice games. Now, what I'm talking about are the sorts of apps or games you'll find on apps that you'll get on your phone. So, for example, something like Darts Counter, there's quite a lot of them. There's one I use called My Darts Training, I think it's called, which is a good app, and they've got some great games on, but I don't base practice around these practice drills that you get on apps. And the reason for this is something I'm going to get into shortly. Now, just very quickly, I do think there is a couple of useful use cases for apps. I think that they are fun and they are novel, and I think they can be enjoyable to play. So if you're a brand new player, maybe you're like a couple of months in or less, I think practice games are okay, because in the early stages, I think that playing and engagement is more important than pretty much anything else. So whilst I'm not going to recommend practice drills or practice games, whatever, that you'll find on an app, in general, I think if you're a new player just getting started, it's just more important that you get those repetitions in, you get that experience under your belt, you build the very basic shell of your throw, or the very basic foundations, I guess you could call them. And apps are a good way to do that because, like I say, novel and fun. So I think they can be useful in that scenario. The other scenario that I think apps are useful is there's a couple of things I want to talk about later. So we'll jump into those a bit later. They're not huge sort of talking points, but it'll make more sense if we touch upon them later. So let's talk a little bit about why practice games or practice drills from apps fall short. And it's not because they are inherently terrible, it's just, I think for a lot of people, and myself included, I've made this mistake on my journey, is you get a little bit too comfortable in your routines, and they can lead to a lack of structure in your practice. If you're just continually pushing out practice games and not really kind of thinking about it or structuring them in a way that is productive, they can be counterintuitive. And I think a lot of players will hit the plateau, especially if they're playing competitively, where you're not taking your gameplay on the practice board to your gameplay in a competitive environment. And I think apps and games are a big cause of that. So how do we practice? How do we practice in a way that will reduce that disparity between the practice board and the competitive environment and make us improve in the long run, ultimately? Well, there's something that I like to incorporate into my practice that I think is a very useful element, and that's the element of wins and losses and stakes. Now, I'm going to show you in a second how I do it, but I think the important thing to stress about this is the way I do it is not necessarily the way you have to do it. You can take the principles of what I'm showing you and you can tweak them and adjust them for your own skill level, whether you're better or worse than me, whatever it may be, or on a similar level. Wherever you're at in your darts journey, you can tailor this. And there's also probably a degree of taste as well. Like if you prefer doing certain things, then yeah, you can do that. It really doesn't matter. I think as long as you can take the principles away and you can see what I'm doing with the way I structure this, it will be beneficial and you don't have to follow me exactly. So without any further ado, let's jump in. So let's get back on the old whiteboard. We've not done this for a few videos. So I will put this on the screen. If it doesn't show up very well on video, we'll see how it looks. But I'm going to write down some practice games, or the way I practice. And I'm going to give you two different ways of doing this. I'm going to give you a scoring game and I'm going to give you a finishing / checkouts game. And once again, you can take this in lots of different directions, but these are the two I'm going to show you to illustrate. And I think I'll get some footage of me playing and we'll play one of these games. This is a power scoring drill, and we're going to set up the very basic scoring system. So we're going to set this game where to start, and we're going to denote that with an S, we're going to start on 3 points. The lose condition, the lose condition is 0 points. So if you run out of points, you lose. And the win condition, we're going to say 7 for this game. So hopefully this shows up. Like I say, I will throw some of this on the screen if it doesn't come out very well on video. How do we score points? So it's quite simple, really. If you get anywhere from 0 to 45 points, that is -1. If you get anywhere from 46 to 64 points, it's 0 points. If you get anywhere above 64, if you get above 65 points, it's 1 point. If you get above 85 points, it's 2 points. And if you get above 105, it's 3. And then finally, we'll just put in 180 as well. 5 points. Okay, so we've got a list of ways that we can score points. How do we apply this? So we start throwing. Now, we start off, like I said, on 3 points. And our goal was to get to 7 points to win this game. I'm going to throw in a couple of wrinkles, and I'm going to explain why. So the first wrinkle I'm going to throw in is that we're going to have a pool of lives. Now you can play this game as is. You can go up and throw, and if you get 44, you lose a point. If you get 60, you don't get any points. You just 0, you just go again. And if you get any of these, you get loads of points. So yeah, okay, that's great. Me personally, I had a couple of wrinkles in, and the first one I had in is the 60 pool. And the idea of this is that we are punishing ourselves if we consistently hit 60. Now, the reason we want to do that is because 60 is not enough. If we want to really improve our game, and if we really want to take it to the next level, if we just keep hitting 60, 60, 60, 60, we're going to stall. So we don't really want to get stuck in these 60 ruts, I call them. So we're going to give ourselves a number of lives. Now, let's say, for example, we hit 60. We won't look, and let me just name this as well, because it might get a bit confusing. I appreciate this probably looks confusing, but it's quite a simple game once you start playing. So that's your main pool of health, of lives. So if you hit 60, you don't lose a point from the main pool, because it's 0 points, but you will lose a point from the 60 pool. And I think the important point to remember is that if we lose a point from this pool, it's not coming back. So by doing this, we're essentially adding a time component into the game. We're essentially saying to ourselves, if we don't score big, we're going to run out of lives and this game's going to be over. Because what I found a little bit is that you can kind of go backwards and forwards with this one. You can hit 60, you can hit 65, you can kind of go back and forward, and then you can hit a 41. You can get a little bit stuck. So this is adding a time component in. This is adding a need for trebles. This is adding some urgency, some pressure. And this is really the idea of what we're trying to do with our practice. We're trying to practice with pressure and stakes. This is the first way of doing that. Now, once again, you can play this game like this. You can start throwing, and if you hit, 105, you get 3 points. Bang, bang, you're on six points, that kind of thing. I like to add another wrinkle into the game as well. And this one is something I've started doing more recently, but once again, you can just play like this. But let's add another pool in as well. And once again, I appreciate this might look confusing, and I probably look like a mad scientist, like, the Always Sunny in Philadelphia sort of meme with all the red lines on the board. It's not that complicated, it's quite simple. So the 5 and 1 pool, this one's quite simple in the sense that if you hit a 5 or a 1, you lose a life. So now, the game has 3 different components. We've got the main pool, which is what we need to bump up to win. We need to get lives in that pool. We've got the 60 pool, which punishes us if we hit a 60 or below. And we've got, oh, by the way, I probably didn't mention that 60 pool does, if you get 42, for example, you lose a life from that pool as well. So we'll call it the -60 pool. So now we've got 60 or below, and we've got the 5 and 1 pool. And this is quite simple. Let's say we hit 20, 5, 1. We're going to lose, where's my pen? We're going to lose 2 pools we're going to lose 2 lives from this pool. So let's say I've just thrown out 26, we'd lose 1 from this pool because it's in that 0 to 45 range. We'd lose 1 from the 60 pool because it's 60 or below. And we'd lose, importantly, 2 lives from the 5 and 1 pool. So can you see now? We've got lives gone from here, we've got lives gone from here, and we've lost a life from here. And the idea of this one is quite obvious probably, but we need to punish ourselves for these poor darts, 5 and 1, because they will kill our game. So we need to punish ourselves, we need to show ourselves that these are not acceptable darts, and we can't keep doing it like that. So that's why I introduced this. So now we've got a time component where we have to hit trebles and we have to make a move to win, and we have to preserve our 5 and 1s lives. We can't keep throwing 45s, 41s, even an 81 or an 85 will take a life off here. So I think, as you can probably see now, we've got a power scoring game that punishes different bad aspects of our play. And that's what we want to do. And let me just give you another example. Let's say from here we throw treble 20, treble 20, and then we throw a sloppy third dart, and we're at 1, 2, 1. Fantastic. So we get 1, 2, 3 lives, but because we threw that sloppy 1, we lose a point from the 5 and 1. So do you see where I'm going with this? It's quite simple, really. It's just a case of getting your head around how it looks and kind of tracking it in your head as you go. So this is how I like to practice my scoring. Like I said, I will probably put some footage in somewhere around here of me playing a game and showing you this in action. We're going to jump into the power scoring game. I've made these settings a bit lower than what I'd normally do, but I want to make them quite short but illustrative. So hopefully you get the idea of what these things are all about. So we're starting off with the power scoring game. We're starting off on 3 points in the main pool, and I think, what have we got to set to? 5. So if we get to 5, we'll win. So let's come out and get a nice big score to start. This is live, by the way. I've not warmed up at all, so this might be a bit ugly. So see how it goes. Oh, see, told you. Okay. So we're not going to benefit from this bad dart. I might talk about that. I'll talk about this in the video, but this is a 66 pointer the way I've just done it, which gets me 1 point. So visit number 2, we're on 4 points. 20. Ooh. Now in this visit, we got 41. So we're going to take off 1 from the main pool, because if you recall, we lose a point. We're going to take off 1 from the 60 or below pool, because it was a score that did not further our scoring. And we're going to take off 1 from the 5 and the 1 pool. So, okay, so that was a bad visit. So, we're on 3 points again. Unlucky, 60. So, this one's quite straightforward. It's 0 points if you look on the points. We don't lose any points from the main pool, but we do lose a point from the 60 or below pool. Because once again, we can't survive on 60 in the real darts. Bad dart. Oh, bad visit. 26. So, I must say it's quite hard playing this game while trying to record on 3 separate devices. Oh, okay, better. 85. Okay, so bit of progress. $60. Boom, 100. So, just to recap, we got 100 points, which is enough to give us 2 points. So, with our win condition 5, we win. So that's the scoring game, 1 win in the bag. Once again though, in this game we've set it to 7. So let's say I was to just hit 100 next time up. Boom, boom, 100. We would get 2 points and we would win. Now, the other wrinkle I'll say in this game is that I typically will play like best of 3 or best of 5. And that will be my scoring for my mini session. So if I'm having a mini practice session and I want to play scoring, I'll do a best of 3 in this. And like I say, it doesn't tend to drag too long because we have these pools that don't replenish. And it's an enjoyable game that has stakes. It causes you to be concentrated. It's intentional. And it punishes sloppy play. It punishes bad concentration. And it ultimately rewards the big scores, which is what we want. So the next game I'm going to show you is the scoring game. Now this one is probably a little bit more simple, to be truthful, but once again, I think it's going to be quite instructive and a good practice game to implement. So we're going to try and replicate match gameplay as best as we possibly can. I think that's a really important component of our practice. So we're going to give ourselves the throw and not to have the throw. Does that make sense? Yeah, we're going to implement the throw, which is obviously something you'd have in a real match. So sometimes we're going to get 12 darts, sometimes we're going to get 9, when we're with the throw and when we're against the throw, or when we've got the throw and when we're against the throw. Now this is a game of 101, and from here it's quite simple. We're going to do something similar to what we did with this, where we have a win condition, a start condition, and a lose condition. So we'll do the same system just to illustrate our point. So we're starting on 3 points. We're losing if we get down to 0 and we've run out of points, and we win on 7 points. And we're starting with 3 lives. And from here, it's quite simple. Now, I like to use this just to show what I'm on, but we're going to start on 12 darts. So we're starting with the throw. And we're going to try and check out 101 in 12 darts. It's that simple. Now, you can do 2 different versions of this. You can either do double in, where you have to get a double to start. I play that quite a lot, but you can do straight in. So we're just going to do straight in for our example. So let's just say, and I'm not going to put the darts on the board right now because it's just a bit faster to do it on here. Let's say you come up with dart first visit, and you hit 41. Now you're on 60 and you've got 9 darts remaining. Then let's just say you hit 40. You hit 40. So now you're left on 20. You've got 6 darts on 20. Let's say you check out and you hit that 20. So now you gain a life. And we will then go against the throw. So then you have the same thing, but you only have 9 darts to do it. So once again, you start off on 101. Let's just say you hit 41. Again, you're down to 60. You've got 6 darts to hit 60. So then let's say you hit 20. So now you're on 40. And you've got 3 darts to hit 40. And let's say you don't get it. Well, you lose a life. You see where I'm going? It's very simple. Oh God. I apologise if that ruins your ears. So that game is quite simple. That game is also quite simple. They just look a bit wacky on my whiteboard. So yeah, now there's a couple of wrinkles you can add here. So let's talk about ways to make this game harder or easier. We can change these numbers. So you can start off on 5 if this is a bit tough for you, or you can reduce this win condition to 5 points. You can do the same over here as well. Like I say, on the checkout game, you could potentially make it double in. So you have to hit a double to start, not just finish. That's one way of doing it. Another thing I like to do is, let's say I start off on my first leg and I check out on double 16. Maybe we change the finish that we have to double on. So, I can take 16 off the board. So we can't use 16 anymore. That's the kind of thing we can do. So let's say we're on 4 points. We've checked out on 16. We can't check out on 16 again, or double 16. Do you see where I'm going with this? There's just so many ways you can take it in your own direction. You can personalize your own training. That's really more for double in, double out, to be truthful. It's kind of better if you get in on 16, you can't use that again. So something to bear in mind. Take it as far as you want. Like I said, maybe you think to yourself, we're going to change this number to 5 because that's too hard for me. Or we're going to do it here. Oh God. We're going to do it here because that's too hard. And that's fine. It really doesn't matter. If you're just getting started with darts, or you're not too far into your journey and you're struggling with these, feel free to make it as easy or as hard as you need to do. So we are now in the checkout game. If you can recall, we have this component of the game that simulates a real match with having the throw and being against the throw. So we're starting off on 12 darts and we've got to check out 101. We're going to do straight in. I'm not going to do too many legs of this because I don't want it to drag out, but it should hopefully be fairly productive. So 101. 12 darts, 41, 32, oh, okay, 16, 9 darts. Ay caramba, that was a bad one. 16 darts. Sorry, 16 to score, 6 darts. Boom, okay, got a win. So let's go back to our board. And if you can recall, we get the win, but most importantly, we've only got 9 darts because we're against the throw in this leg. If we win this leg, by our conditions, we've won. Once again, you can change this number. I realise I'm making it a quick game. So we've got 9 darts. Let's try and wrap this up. Bad start. 76, 56, 6 darts. Oh my goodness. 56, 6 darts. 23 darts. Okay. So we lose that one. That was unfortunate. Oh no. So we've got 11 to go and we've got 9 darts. Six darts, double 1. Boom, right, okay. I'm gonna play one more leg. I don't wanna drag this out and I don't wanna keep going forever. So this will be the final leg. Yeah, we'll see. Right, so 9 darts, 101. Good start. 6 darts. Oh, 3 darts, 20. So let's just say, obviously we win if we get this, but if we don't get it, let's say we lose. 20. Oh no, right, okay, so bullseye. If we get a bullseye, we can start the visit again. Oh. Okay, so we'll replay that visit because we hit the bullseye. This is the sort of thing you can do, by the way, to put in your practice. That just gives every dart stakes, because if I didn't have stakes on that dart, it would have just been a waste of a throw. We're going for 20, by the way. All the pressure on this one. If we win, we hit it. If we win, if we hit it. If we don't, we lose. Okay, fantastic. So we've won, fantastic. We did have a little bit of help from the bullseye, but once again, it doesn't matter. It's your own practice. You know, we're not playing at the World Championship here. So yeah, good practice session. Let's jump back into the vid. What I will say is there's balance in your practice, and this is probably the next part of the video that I'd like to discuss. So there's a concept called comfort, stretch, panic, which you may be familiar with, you may not be, but basically the idea is that if you're too comfortable and practice is too easy and you're too relaxed and comfortable once again, you're not going to progress. You're not going to get any better. it's going to be too easy for you. But then there's conversely a zone where you're too stressed out and things are too hard for you. So what the optimal way of practicing would be to be in the kind of stretch zone, which is like productive discomfort, you could probably call it, where you're pushing yourself and you're stretching yourself, for lack of a better term, and you're trying to make yourself better. And it's where the optimal growth is supposed to occur. And that's what we're trying to do with this. We're trying to push ourselves for this game to be tough, but not too tough. We want it to be achievable, but not too achievable. So I'd probably aim for somewhere around 50-50 with this. You know, half the time you win, half the time you lose. That's probably the rough kind of guide. If you want to make it a bit more like you're winning a bit more often, then that's fine. I think as long as you're not too far on either extreme, you're going to get something out of this. And I would probably, like I say, aim for 50-50. That's probably my guide, but ultimately you can be a little bit either way. I've touched on this recently, but I think you need to be intentional with your practice and you need to be concentrating for the most part. That's where you'll get probably your most productive time on the board, and that's where you'll probably get the most improvement. Now, I've got another couple of things to discuss very quickly before the end of the video, but final notes on kind of this practice that I've just discussed is don't reward yourself for bad darts. And this is a bit of a miscellaneous tip, but I think it's very important. So let's imagine you're playing this power scoring game that I've recommended, where you've got your pools and you've got your scores that you've got to hit to get points. Let's just say you aim for the 20 and you hit treble 18, and let's just say you hit treble 12. And you also hit 20. Now that's a big score. What is it, 90, 110? So I would encourage you not to give yourself 3 points for hitting that score, which I know it's tempting to do, but I would encourage you to consider, and if you're aiming for 20 on a game like this, when you're practicing like this and you hit 18, count it as a 1. If you are on this side and you hit anything left of the 5, count it as a 5. That's my advice. Don't benefit from bad training. Don't allow your brain to misconceive bad darts as acceptable darts. It will benefit you in the long run to remove that. Don't let bad darts benefit you when you're practicing. Now, there's another method of practicing, and this is not going to be the bulk of your practice, but I think it's a great little wrinkle to introduce into your practice days. I've talked about this in a recent video, but I'm going to mention it again and just go into a little bit more detail on this. So there's a game that I've started to call Calibration Training. Now, the reason it's called Calibration Training is because you're really trying to fine tune your throw. And the idea is quite simple. 3 darts, you throw the first dart, and if you don't hit the treble 20, let's say you go in the 5, you don't throw the other 2. You come up and you take the dart out of the board and you go again. And if you hit the 20, or the treble 20 I should say, you're allowed to throw the second dart. And if you miss, you come up to the board, you take out both darts and you start again. Now, you might be thinking this sounds horrible and it's not the easiest drill in the world, especially if you're kind of not too far into your journey. Even myself, a couple of years in now, I still have sessions on this drill where it's not very good and I play bad. Now, let me show you something that I use for this, and it's this thing. A timer. It's quite simple, really. It's just a little timer. You can use your phone, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. Now, the reason I use that is because this calibration training, I've coined it, it's much more productive, in my opinion, to do it over a 10-minute period. If you do it 1 hour a day, let's say, and you train like that for 1 hour a day, where you throw 1 dart, where you come up and you take your darts out and you go throw again, I think it can be quite counterproductive. We are looking to get 10 minutes of high quality, very high concentration training, and any more than that would be miserable. It would be counterproductive to your rhythm and your throw, I think, and it would just be poor quality. I think what happens with these sorts of things is you will lose the concentration and you will lose the intensity, and the drill will just become really poor quality. So do it for 10 minutes. And like I say, it's just not the most enjoyable. It's just not. Throwing 1 dart, going up to the board, pulling out the dart and coming back again and throwing can be pretty boring, and you can lose concentration and the whole purpose of the drill just falls apart. Ultimately, a treble 20 is a timing window. You're trying to get your brain to reject these bad darts that go too high, too low, too left, too right, whatever, because your timing and your release is off on those throws. So that's the idea of this. It's something I've incorporated. It's something that I've put into my game recently, and it's been working well for me. I've not been doing it for too long, probably about 4 weeks now, but it's working well, and I feel as though I'm getting good results from it. And like I say, I keep it to a minimum because any more than that, I think would be miserable, and I don't think it would work well. So 10 minutes max. There is another way you can add a bit of an extra wrinkle to this game, and that is if you hit the treble 20, and then let's say your second dart goes somewhere else, you can leave that first dart in if you want. That's another way of doing this game, but you can kind of combine two drills into one, because there is this idea out there, this way of training where you leave a dart in and you just keep throwing at this dart. To improve your grouping and to improve throwing at a marker. The idea of this is obviously if you get the first dart in the treble 20, you can hit the other two into the treble 20 far easier. That's the idea of training this way. So you can kind of combine those two practices into one. And then if you hit the second one, leave it in. And then, you know, let's just say this one goes somewhere else, just leave the two in and just keep going back for the one. So you can kind of combine two into one there and get a bit of extra value. It's up to you. I personally do around 10 minutes a day of the first version, and then sometimes I'll do 5 to 10 minutes of the second version as well, but it depends how I'm feeling. I'm a bit more consistent with that first one because I think the first one is good bang for your buck for 10 minutes of practice. Now finally, I just want to round out with a couple of smaller points that I think are important but will benefit you. The first is, let's circle back to practice games. I talked about practice drills that you get on apps and stuff like that. I think that it's too easy for them to become like junk quality when you're practicing. I'm not saying they are inherently junk. I'm just saying that the way I think most people, myself included, use them, they can easily become kind of junk volume kind of practice. So like I said at the beginning, I think beginners are well suited to using these kind of practice games because they're just fun and they're novel, and you will get improvement, I think, at the beginning out of those things. I think that the other times where practice games are good is when you can combine it with the sort of principles we talked about here, with the way we can get these wins and losses. Like, let's just imagine you're playing the 1-2-1 checkout game. Very similar to this, to be truthful, to this one. But you can kind of turn it into this, like, you can gamify it with the wins and losses, best of 3. Maybe a Bob's 27, you know, if you finish, you get a win. If you don't, you get a lose, and you do best of 5. I think there are ways you can kind of gamify these apps, and you can gamify these like practice drills and utilize them in your own way. I've not done that myself, and I've not really seen anyone else who's done that, I don't think, but there is probably ways to incorporate them into this. So I think that's one way we can use practice games and practice drills that we got off apps. I think the other time that they're kind of pretty good is, let's just say you're a longer term player who's maybe sort of feeling a bit disengaged, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't really want to play darts at the moment. I can't really be bothered. I'm not really enjoying it. I'm trying to be really productive with my practice, but I'm just not feeling the energy. And that's okay. And I think there's days like that. And that's going to take me on to the next point in a second. But I will say that practice drills are good in those sorts of scenarios where keeping engaged, keeping in the game, just keeping going, that's where they can be really useful. And that is kind of the final point I want to make. I think for a lot of people, disengagement is like the ultimate enemy. If you get to a point in your journey where you're just stopping practicing for a few weeks because you're bored or you don't like it or you're just sick of darts, then that means it's okay to sort of do something a little bit different and change things up and just try and make it more fun and rewarding. The analogy I like to use is the gym. When I've been going to the gym over the years, a tremendous weapon that I've found it's very useful in sticking with the gym and to keep working out. It's this idea that there's going to be days where you just do not want to go to the gym. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going today. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this program. I don't want to go in and work out really hard. I don't have the energy. I don't have the motivation. I feel miserable. I just want to stay at home and, you know, watch TV or whatever. On those days, what I tend to do is I just tend to tell myself, we're going to the gym, but you can do whatever you want. So you want to just go and do some chest and a bit of arms or whatever? Do it. Staying engaged, staying in touch, staying on track is the most important thing in those scenarios. And the funny thing is, on those days where I don't want to go to the gym, but I go anyway and I just do what I want to do, A, I feel tremendous for doing it and I feel tremendous for getting that workout in. But B, they do keep me in the game. They do keep me going to the gym. And you know what happens the next time I want to go to the gym? I feel more motivated, I feel happier going, and it's just easier. And it's the same thing with darts. You can use that same thing to stay practicing, to stay engaged, to stay in the game. And once again, that's the most important thing. I don't know about you guys, but throughout my life, I've struggled to stick with things at various times. And I'm now reaching the point in my life where I can stick with things. It's why I've stuck with darts for 2 years without missing a beat, really, for the most part. It's because I've learned to keep engaged with these little ways of kind of beating the off days, so to speak, and keeping myself just in there. And that's just so important, and it works so well. So I would encourage you to use practice drills in apps if you need to, or play against a dart spot, whatever it may be. I would probably try and avoid the long, super long sessions of just throwing a treble 20 non-stop. But at the same time, you know, if you want to just do it every blue moon for an evening, it's better than just stopping playing altogether, I would say. There's some sort of saying about perfectionism being the enemy of productivity or something. I don't know what it is, but that same principle applies for something like darts. Like ultimately, even though I'm talking about the optimal sort of way of practicing, in my opinion, or feeling like a really good way of practicing and trying to eliminate bad practice, you're never going to do it all the time. And progress over perfection, don't take yourself out of the game because you don't think you're doing it perfectly. Just hang in there. And if you need to have a fun night where you just treat yourself to something that you enjoy doing, do it. It's the best way. So yeah, that's all. I think this video has been an interesting video because I've not done a video like this before. When I created the channel, I didn't really want to kind of go too deep down the rabbit hole of like challenges and practice drills and all that sort of stuff, but I thought it was going to be a really productive thing to talk about how to practice, not specific drills too much. I know I've kind of gone into a little bit of detail there, but the ways we can practice and the principles we can take away, I think are very useful. And I hope this video has been instructive for you. I really do. Let me know down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, just drop the subscribe somewhere around, I think it's down here. No, it's down here, isn't it? Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I appreciate you if you do that. I appreciate if you watch anyway, especially if you're this deep into the rabbit hole of this video. Thank you. I do appreciate it. But no, have a fantastic night, day, whatever it may be, and I will catch you for the next one. Bye-bye.